Our own Orkan Amashov joins us live to tell us everything about the first day of the high-profile event from Shusha. Orkan, what's the difference about this year compared to the previous editions of the Shusha Global Media Forum?
Hello, Dilek. Good evening. What a day have we had. It was the day one, of course, and a major difference, of course, of this Shusha Global Media Forum in terms of the location of the day one. Day one event was President Ilham Aliyev's Q&A session, which lasted for about 2 hours and 45 minutes, and the venue was Khan Kandi Congress Center. During the first two editions of Shusha Global Media Forum, all the major events, including the opening day events, used to take place in Shusha. This was the first of Shusha Global Media Forum's event taking place outside Shusha, but it's a normal practice, of course. And I imagine that this practice will continue from now on. So Khan Kandi as a location was a vivid embodiment of the new Azerbaijan's new aspirations, and also, of course, circumstances on the ground in this region, because President Aliyev was responding to the questions of the representatives of international media, extensively talked about the recovery of Azerbaijan's territorial integrity and sovereignty, about what the separatist elements were trying to do here. He talked extensively about the peace process. Therefore, I think that the choice of the location as Khan Kandi, as for the purpose of day one, as opposed to Shusha, had a meaning, and that meaning was very clear to everybody. And I think that on this occasion, we have more guests from different countries. As I think my colleagues mentioned a couple of times throughout the day today, I think there are around 140 foreign representatives from 50 countries in Khan Kandi today, and they're going to be in Shusha tomorrow for the opening ceremony, because today's day one's characteristic could be described as a welcoming day. And also, of course, the major developments that are going to take place tomorrow will be completely centered around artificial intelligence and the different modes of new media, its impact on our daily life, and also, of course, technology and its impact on the quality of journalism and media ethics. And those subjects will be discussed tomorrow. But today's major event, of course, what dominated today was President Aliyev's 2-hour, 45-minute interview, the press briefing, Q&A session with journalists. I think that we can actually outline the general picture on the basis of 4 or 5 essential elements. He talked about Azerbaijani-Armenian peace process. He mentioned in the clearest possible way that Abu Dhabi meeting was indeed a success. It reflected very positively. But I think it's very clear that unless Azerbaijan's fundamental demands, which are extra treaty demands, those demands relate to OSCE, Minsk Group, and also, of course, the Armenian constitution, which contains territorial claim was Azerbaijan. If those obstacles are not removed, there will be no peace treaty. And I think that there was a journalist from Georgia, Mr. Basadze, when he posed this question about that Azerbaijani and Georgian interests go hand in hand. And after Abu Dhabi meeting, it could be said with absolute confidence that interests of Azerbaijan and Armenia should go hand in hand. But President Aliyev reflected historically. He actually referred to that stadium, which is not far away from the Khan Kandi Congress Center, making reference to Prime Minister Pashinyan's speech delivered in 2018, wherein he said that Karabakh is and he said that, yes, Armenia changed massively over the past few years. He also referred to Prime Minister Pashinyan's latest statement, in which Pashinyan said that he should have recognized Azerbaijan's territorial integrity, including Karabakh, earlier than this. And President Aliyev said that, yes, he should have listened to me, from which actually it could emerge with elegant inevitability that Azerbaijan wants more clarity from Armenia, and Azerbaijan wants crystal clear guarantees. Yes, indeed, he talked about the Zengezur corridor. He didn't say specifically anything about that American proposal as such. What he said was that Azerbaijan would not allow for any country to assume, or any entity, any foreign entity, to assume control over Azerbaijan's sovereign territory. There will be no section of transport within Azerbaijan controlled or leased out to any foreign entity, but Armenia has to decide on its own. I don't necessarily think that we can make a very decisive conclusion on the basis of that, but what he said was very clear and was a reiteration of Azerbaijan's fundamental Zangezur essentials. He said that we need to travel from Azerbaijan to Azerbaijan, in other words, from Azerbaijan's mainland to Nakhchivan exclave. That road must be unobstructed, and we shouldn't see, there should be no Armenian control. And actually, what he said there, I vividly remember, he said that our citizens should not face the face of Armenian border guards. I mean, from all of this sort of, this sort of cumulatively, on the basis of this amalgamation of comments, could we confidently say that Azerbaijan is against any form of foreign entity control over that overland passage? And I'm not entirely sure. I think that Azerbaijan would be willing to be more focused on some sort of arrangement which will not have any third-party element, undoubtedly. But President Aliyev's comments were strictly about Azerbaijani territory, recognized as sovereign part of Azerbaijan. There were many other interesting moments, of course. His comments about Russia-Ukraine conflict. I think one of the first questions, actually, was about what would be his advice to Ukrainians. And he said that never accept the occupation. And interestingly enough, he also talked extensively about Azerbaijan-Russia tensions and made it very clear that as long as that apology with the guilt admitted, compensations being paid, and also those responsible brought to accountability. Those three conditions not fulfilled. As long as they are not fulfilled, these tensions will not ease. I think President Aliyev was very clear about that topic as well. And connectivity, of course, one of the key elements of his articulations made during day one and the 17th summit of the Economic Cooperation Organization, Azerbaijan's role within D8, and many other elements were reflected upon very, very extensively. And I think that by and large, when there was a question about what Azerbaijan is planning to do or what would Azerbaijan do to change European public opinion about Azerbaijan, his answer, I think, received very positive reaction from many delegates that I have managed to speak to after that session was over. I mean, what is very clear from President Aliyev's responses, Azerbaijan has achieved a certain degree of self-sufficiency. Azerbaijan is not particularly concerned about what other countries think about Azerbaijan, as long as Azerbaijan is doing the right thing. And what he made very clear is that Azerbaijan operating within the sovereign borders of its own territory, and Azerbaijan is not endangering any other country. Azerbaijan is not trying to impose its will on any other country, and therefore Azerbaijan should be respected. And of course, what he said regarding one of the last questions put to him was by a representative of New Caledonia, wherein he expressed his support, reiterated that support, and said that it's only the beginning of the journey for New Caledonia. And the current arrangement, wherein, of course, as we know, New Caledonia is recognized as a state within the French Republic, is just the beginning of a long journey. In terms of Azerbaijani gas being supplied for European needs, I think President Aliyev was reflecting on the exigencies emanating from realpolitik. He said that, yes, indeed, we will have extra 8 BCM, but of course, we need to establish which markets are ready to accept it. And he also extensively talked about European policy based on not financing fossil fuel projects. And I think that one of the key moments of that very, very important Q&A session was my colleague Ubi Shabanda's question to President Ilham Aliyev about his expectation for the future of US-Azerbaijan relations, and some positive notes have been reflected there. And President Aliyev very interestingly compared the case of Ukraine with Azerbaijan, saying that, Azerbaijan recovered its territorial integrity, after which Biden administration, or particular member of Biden administration, said that there will be no more business as usual with Azerbaijan, but Ukraine received support for the protection of its territorial integrity. And I think that by and large, in the final analysis, we could say that fundamentally we were not surprised, but certain fundamental linchpins have been reiterated. No full normalization with Russia is likely to take place. Azerbaijan has got some expectations. Connectivity projects will continue. Some sort of a strong, realistic, crystal clear precepts that dominate Azerbaijan's foreign policy regarding Europe will also, of course, continue. But very, very importantly, I think this should be reiterated. President Aliyev's reflections about OSCE Minsk Group, I think, will be referred to by political analysts. He specifically mentioned that particular moment before 2020. What he said was that when the OSCE co-chairs made a statement saying that status quo back then, before 2020, was not acceptable, Azerbaijan was very encouraged. But when they said it is no longer tenable, it is not sustainable, that was a different story. Sort of this linguistic transformation from the point of status quo being not acceptable, being utterly unacceptable, to being not sustainable, I think had some sort of bearing on Azerbaijani thinking as well. And yes, Dilek, please, sorry.
Okay, Orkan, that was a great roundup. We can leave it there for this evening, and no doubt we'll talk to you again tomorrow.